Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are today. This is Paul Hoyt. Welcome to today's Office Hours presentation. As you know, Office Hours is a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we do every Monday at noon Pacific time, almost every Monday. Every once in a while, we skip one like we have done this past week. And all these recordings, slides, and exercises are archived in our members area, and all the recordings are available on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons I do these is because I know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but I also know that it's tough. You need education, training, tools, and team to be successful. And I want you to get to know me because when you do, you'll know that I really do care about you, and I want you to succeed in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. I want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day. My vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate their business growth and enjoy greater harmony and balance in their lives, and you can help by passing the word. If you have any business owners out there that you know that you think could find value in the training and education and the support and the encouragement that we provide on the office hours calls, by all means, please tell them to go to paulhoyt.com, sign up so they too can join us live and listen to the recordings too. Our agenda is usually an in-depth discussion of a business success principle, and we have closing remarks and special offers and invitation for next week's session. But today it's all opens and questions and answers with regards to the live group coaching. So I invite you to join us if you haven't done so already on the Brilliant Business Group on Facebook and on LinkedIn. With Facebook, it's facebook.com/groups/Brilliant Business. For LinkedIn, we have a slightly different URL, bit.ly/Brilliant Business Group. Join us because we do postings frequently on the business success principle of the day on both Facebook and LinkedIn 4 days a week, and the energy of the day posting on Facebook every single day. So we're going to celebrate Energy of the Day posting number 500 coming up here in just a week or so, and I'm going to find a way to celebrate number 500, which I think is going to be a pretty nice milestone in the Energy of the Day thing. As you may have noticed, I did not publish the business success principle of the day this past week while I was at CEO Space, and that's because as those of you who have been here know that this is a 7 a.m. till midnight kind of conference that really consumes a lot of energy, and I just decided not to do business success principle of the day posting. But we'll start again this week because I have lots of success principles that I was reminded of while I was at CEO Space. And I invite you, by the way, on the Facebook group and in the LinkedIn group to make comments, ask questions, share your insights and your takeaways, and get other people in the community to support you. And also encourage you, if you haven't done so yet, to like my business page on Facebook. We're up to 496 likes. 500 is a big milestone. Maybe we'll hit that about the same time that we hit 500 Energy of the Day postings. That would be cool. Today's topic is open Q&A, just group coaching, whatever that you want to talk about. Usually I try to tie the subject matter of the office hours presentation to one or more of the key performance areas of business, which form part of the foundation of business that I talk about with all of my consulting engagements. I really think it's important for people to have competence, at least competence, and hopefully going towards excellence in each one of these 7 different key performance areas of business, with leadership being the most important and sales and delivery not far behind. If you don't know how to craft a viable business model and build a great team, you're probably never going to be great at sales and at delivery. And if you're not great at sales and delivery, it doesn't make any difference how good you are at marketing, product development, operations, and financial management, because you're not going to have a sustainable, profitable business in the long term. So that's the primary message of the key performance areas and why I have them organized in the way that I do. And today's conversation is about any of them and all of them. Any subject that you have, any questions that you have about business, please don't hesitate to ask, because we want to support you and help you in the ways that we can. So as a kind of a reminder, I want to go over the last couple of office hours we had. In office hours 67, we talked about business valuations. In 68, we talked about the art and science of forming great agreements. And in office hours 70, we talked about a wonderful book called The Goal and the Theory of Constraint. For business valuations, we talked about reasons to get evaluations, how you can get evaluation, how the definitions of value are, and the many approaches to determining value, factors that affect your value, and spent a little bit of time focusing on how angel investors and venture capital firms value a firm that is just getting started. In the next office hours, number 68, we talked about the Book of Agreement by a good friend of mine, Stuart Levine, where he talked about the 10 essential elements of agreements, being the intent and vision, roles and responsibilities, promises and commitments, the time of the agreement itself, fees and payment terms, measurements of satisfaction, any concerns, risk, fears, or consequences that need to be talked about before the agreement is signed, and some agreement on how we're going to renegotiate or dissolve the agreement or resolve conflicts, and then just a statement of agreement, which typically says, that this agreement forms the whole of the relationship. 150 years ago, we did business via handshakes, but today we do business via written agreement. So it's important for you to know what those components are and get in the practice of having great written agreements with suppliers, with employees, with investors, with everybody. In office hours number 69, we talked about the goal, but we talked about a little bit of overview about the book, a word about goals, some of the key concepts in there, the theory of constraint process, and how that applies to small businesses, especially micro businesses where there's 1, 2, or 3 people in the business. How do you apply constraint theory to that? That was a most interesting conversation that I really enjoyed. So those were the last 3 office hours. 67 was on business valuations, 68 was on the goal, and 68 was on the agreements, and 69 was on the goal. So those were some pretty good ones. Oh yeah, one other thing about the goal was my favorite analogy was the Boy Scout hike. What do you do when you've got one Boy Scout who's holding up the entire team of Boy Scouts, the troop? And of course, we answered that question a lot more during the presentation on The Goal, which is, again, a great book, a business novel, which makes it much different than other business books that you might read. So let's jump in right now to open questions and answers. And again, if you want me to address any other particular subject on office hours, go to paulsurvey.com, let me know, or just reach out and contact me at paul@paulhoyt.com or the telephone number that's listed on the screen. And as always, you can go to schedulepaul.com and find a time on my schedule to have a 15-minute, 30-minute conversation. I'd love to see where you are in business and see how we can support you. So with that, let's open it up to some questions and some discussion. Stephanie, what's our first question for today?
We have a request if you could share from CEO Space.
It's been an exciting week. I always enjoy sitting down with people and saying, this is my 53rd CEO Space conference, because a fair share number of them, their jaws drop, and especially when they get about 3 days into it, and it's been 7 a.m. till midnight, 3 or 4 days in a row, and they're already exhausted, and it's hard for them to imagine that somebody would do that 53 times. But that was the choice that I made because I really enjoy the community. CEO Space is not just a place where I can go to find clients, but it's also a place where I get great education. I'm a much stronger, more capable business consultant today because of the time that I've spent in the classroom listening to some of the other great presenters that we've got at CEO Space. So it's really helped me with education and expanded my network, and it's always an inspirational place. I always say that when I go to CEO Space, I am at my best at CEO Space because of the environment of collaboration and people just reaching out honestly and sincerely wanting to help each other with their business. So it has been a really wonderful part of my business journey to, for the last 10 and a half years, go to CEO Space every couple of months or so. I know in my heart and soul that I'm a stronger person, a kinder person, just enjoying life better than I ever would because I've been a business owner and had the freedom and the flexibility that has allowed me to come to the CEO Space community. So this week, there always is 50, 60, 70 people that I get a chance to sit down with one-on-one and talk about their business goals and ideas. And we had the usual mix of people with great service ideas, people wanting to become coaches and therapists, people who are wanting to take a consumer product to market, people who already had a $4 million, $5 million, $10 million business and were looking at great expansion opportunities and wanted to bring their team to CEO Space for the bonding opportunity and for other things. So I really always enjoy that. Some of the really nice things that came out today from CEO Space was, or this week from CEO Space, was the focus on the differentiation between lifestyle businesses and rapid expansion businesses. In the past, the guidance at CEO Space has always been on raising a fairly large amount of capital, $1 million, $2 million, $4 million. And this week, we really saw the first differentiation in between companies that want to start and run a successful small business, which can be called a lifestyle business, versus those that want to start and build a business to be as big as possible. And Bernie Dorman, the founder of CEO Space, has always said that if you're going to start a very big business, it's important to get a lot of capital from the very beginning, because you don't want to have to stop halfway in between stage 1 and stage 2 of your rocket ship to raise capital again. It gets to be very uncomfortable, and capital gets to be very expensive when you have to have it right now today. And he's absolutely right. And this time, what I heard him say for the first time, and I was really delighted, was this clear, distinct differentiation in between people who want to start a smaller business. I want to have $1 million a year business or a $2 million a year business, as opposed to wanting to build a $100 million or a $1 billion business. And I really appreciated that and respected it. So that's a brand new thing out of CEO Space that I think is going to pay huge dividends. And as it turns out, only 30 or 40% of the people who attend CEO Space are raising capital. So I think in the future we're going to see a lot more programs focused on the people who are just wanting to grow a lifestyle business or grow a business that's not going to be 100 million or 200 million. I was privileged to have the opportunity to watch two of my very favorite speakers at CEO Space, Mary Morrissey and Bob Proctor. Both of them have been inspirational speakers, transformational coaches and teachers for 30 years or so. Bob for more like 60 years. Bob is 80-some years old and is just an incredible speaker and an incredible human. And I really enjoyed watching both of those. And the reason primarily is because I see a difference, I feel a difference in the energy of their messages from many other motivational and inspirational speakers that I hear. And the difference is that they not only speak the truth, but I really have this sense that they're living the truth, that they've got a tremendous amount of confidence, but they also have a fair amount of humility that goes with it. And that allows them to really be very genuine and very authentic and speak from a great deal of integrity. And it may be that the reason that I really respect that and love to hear that is because, that's where I'm headed as well. The more powerful I become, the more clear and wise I become, also the more humble I become, and I think the more genuine and authentic as I become. So I look to people like Mary Morrissey and Bob Proctor, and they really become my role models because I sense that energy from them, and it means a lot to me to see very successful people do that. At different stages in people's growth, sometimes they need somebody who is a really kick-butt motivational speaker, the Tony Robbins, the Les Browns, who will just yell at them to get up off the damn couch and do your dream. What are you waiting for? Kind of attitude, I think, is really important for some people. But at some point in time in your journey, that authenticity and that integrity and that humble, you can do it kind of message is really, really valuable too. So there were probably 125, maybe 150 people here throughout the week, and then as usual, it came up to 200, 250 over the weekend as the graduates come back in. And for those, I think most of the people listening to my office hours presentations are a member of the CEO Space community. For those of you who are listening to a recording and don't know much about it, I would invite you to go to ceospaceinternational.com and look it up. It is a fantastic place for building a network, for getting great education, for learning how to raise capital, for filling out your team with people who really do care about you and your business as I do. So it was another great week at CEO Space, and when I get done with this office hours presentation, I'm going to take my bags and head downstairs and go to the airport and go back home to see my wife, which I'm really excited about doing. So that's kind of the wrap-up from CEO Space. I could literally talk for hours about the 60 people that I had a chance to meet one-on-one and the fantastic new opportunities that we saw here, just like we do at every CEO Space. And who knows, maybe at the next one we'll see you, and I'll get to learn more about your fantastic business idea too. So, Stephanie, next question, please. If you're talking, I cannot hear you. We may have lost Stephanie.
Okay, how's it?
That's much better. Now I can hear you.
A new headset, what are you going to do? I wondered if you could tell us about CEO Space. You know, there seems to be, well, I know because I've been there, there's always so many individuals from industries and businesses all doing some amazing things. I wondered if you could tell us what seems to be the latest and the greatest. What are these individuals coming together for? You know, does that make sense? What's that big collective aha that they're getting or that they're looking for?
The big collective aha of CEO Space is a community where people are really supporting each other. I still vaguely remember, and it's been a long time, about how networking organizations outside of CEO Space work. When you go to a BNI or a Chamber of Commerce or any other organizations, it's usually about, you know, kind of what's in it for me. The air is, you know, they're looking for prospects and clients and looking to do business, and they're looking for business relationships, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what sets CEO Space apart is that it's people helping people genuinely interested in other people's projects and genuinely going out of the way to give them concepts, to sit down and brainstorm with them, to be very helpful. This is a very helpful environment, and that to me is the fundamental thing that separates CEO Space from any other networking organization that I've ever seen, is that it's a community where people are inspired to get caught up in the collaborative energy and everybody's helping everybody else as much as they possibly can. So that's the thing that sets CEO Space apart. The latest and the greatest, which was the first part of that question, it's hard to say. There are always great technology plays here. In the last couple of months, it's been my pleasure to take 2 of the CEO Space companies that I met to an incubator in Silicon Valley. So as many of you know, I live in Northern California in the Silicon Valley capital market, which is one of the most robust and sophisticated capital markets on the planet. And but I found a couple of very high-tech companies that I was able to take to some organizations that I know in the Bay Area, in the Silicon Valley capital market, and introduce them to some organizations, an incubator there, that I think is really helping those companies move along. So I certainly saw 1 or 2 more companies at this conference that I may have the opportunity to introduce to the Silicon Valley capital market through the incubator that I'm familiar with there, which are pretty darned exciting. And we're under NDA, so I can't talk in general about what these projects are, but just say that if you've got a really high-tech project and you're thinking about raising capital for it, the CEO Space can be a very good place to start. And who knows who you'll run into, like me or some of the other faculty members, who can introduce you to potential investors as well. That's all that comes to mind for CEO Space. Stephanie, was there another part to that question that I missed, or do you have another question for me?
Let's see, I got some more questions here.
Okay.
What are some basic daily steps, tasks, studies, or goals that one can do to build a foundation to be like Bob Proctor or Mary Morrissey?
Wow, that is a great question, and I call it the practice of awakening. What the new Awakened CEO system is all about, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a couple of minutes or so. But the new Awakened CEO system that I launched in a webinar on March 18th, that's available on my YouTube channel if you want to go watch that one. And it's our intention to do an introduction to the Awakened CEO system webinar every month. We haven't scheduled the next one yet, but it'll probably be a couple of weeks out. Well, anyway, one of the fundamental concepts in the Awakened CEO system is about the interrelationship and the integration between business growth, professional growth, and personal growth. And in that presentation, I said what I really strongly believe is that it's a pretty good idea to focus on all three of those things every single day. So in terms of professional growth, that means carving out an hour or so of your time every single day to be reading on a really good business book, to be looking at websites that have a tremendous amount of information online, to be talking to other people and networking with other people about trends that are happening in your industry, but spend at least an hour a day on professional development or professional growth is one of the primary messages of the Awakened CEO system. The other part of that is spend at least an hour a day working on yourself in meditation or in prayer, in really focusing on the person that you want to be. I'm a big fan of every single morning getting up and focusing on your intentions. The intentions of the person that you want to become, the things that you want to do, and the things that you want to have in your life, and getting that vision of those things very clear in your own mind. I choose to say those intentions to myself in a very specific way, and I use the language of, I choose to experience the joy of continued health and vitality. I choose to experience the joy of helping millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate the growth of their business and experience greater harmony and balance in their life. I choose to experience the joy of great wealth and freedom. And when we drive those thoughts into our subconscious mind, we're open to seeing opportunities that help us manifest and create that vision of the future for ourselves as they appear throughout the day. So if you want to be a Mary Morrissey, if you want to be a Bob Proctor, if you want to make great progress on your journey, then focus at least an hour a day on professional growth, and focus at least an hour a day on personal growth, and focus 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day on growing your business. And you have to do the work of the business itself, the work of product development, the work of marketing, the work of sales, the work of delivering a quality product or service to your client. And I think most business owners focus on that 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and then another hour or two, an hour on professional development, an hour on personal growth and personal development. And then that gives you another couple of hours a day to focus on the balancing activities of spending time with your family, of exercise, of a little downtime for whatever that means to you. And I think that's a real important way to lead a balanced life. Bob Proctor says that every single day he reads out of the book Think and Grow Rich. Every single day, and he has for 50 years or 60 years. He carries around this old beaten copy of it that he's got, in a separate little binder because it's falling apart. The pages are torn and dog-eared and yellowed, and he does that every single day. That's a good book to do that with. I do it every single day as well, but my choice is to focus on the messages that I have written, the messages that have come to me that I write to myself, and then I share them with the world in the books, in my Practice of Awakening series. So I think the most important answer here is probably really an encouragement that you can do that. You can become a person who knows the truth, who speaks the truth, and who lives the truth, hour by hour, minute by minute throughout the day. It's quite possible. And all it takes is a little focus every single day, and putting that as one of your most important goals in life. So thank you very much for that question. I love to talk about the power that we have, the greatness that we have within us, and the opportunity we have to become a little wiser, a little kinder, a little stronger, a little happier, a little more loving every single day. And when you do that, boy, you get to be 40, 50, 60 years old, and life is a blessing with every breath. Next question, Stephanie.
Well, golly, I don't know how I can follow that up. Let's see. Okay, question. What is the bridge between target and accomplishment?
Wow, that's a great question. What is the bridge between target and accomplishment? I would say I'll go back to our Awaken CEO growth process. So the Awaken CEO growth process is a 5-step process that we apply to anybody and anything that people want to create. Step number 1 is to creating the vision, and that's the target that you've got. It's really helpful to define very clearly for yourself what your intentions are, what it is that you want to create, what it is that you want to be, and what it is that you want to do, and what you want to have, and that's the first step. The second step is to figure out where we are today. You know, what is your status? What are you good at? What are you not so good at? What resources do you have at your disposal? Which ones of them are missing? What skill sets do you have, and which ones do you need to accomplish and begin to gather into your company? So determining your fair status is number 2. We do that, by the way, with a business foundation profile and a business complexity profile and a business clarity questionnaire. So we understand exactly what your business is and where you're going and have a really good idea for figuring out what your gaps are. Once you figure out what your gaps are, then step number 3 is to create the plan, the step-by-step plan to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Sometimes that's a long-term strategic plan. Sometimes that's a mid-term plan expressed as a phase growth strategy with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of our business growth. And I'm a big fan of 90-day plans that focus on the top 3 to 5 goals that you have for your business and the goals that you have for yourself, both in terms of professional development and personal growth for the next 90 days, and then focus on that day after day after day. Step number 4 in the Awaken CEO growth process is to gather the resources. Now that you've got the plan in place and know it is what you need to do, then you'd go back and look at your status and decide what resources that you need to gather. Sometimes that's the resources of increasing your own skill set through training and education programs. Sometimes that's through adding people through your team. Sometimes it's getting funding for the project that you have. And then step number 5, which, by the way, is about 95% of all the time and energy that you have, is on taking action on the plan that you put in place. So those are the 5 steps: vision, status, plan, resources, and execute. And that's how you bridge the gap in between the target of where you are and where you want to be. Nice question, Stephanie. Next one.
Next question. When you get stuck, how do you get unstuck?
I think the first step is to realize that you're stuck, and then know in your heart and soul that there are a dozen ways to get unstuck. Sometimes that is just shifting energy, just getting up from your desk and taking a little walk, getting a sip of coffee or a soft drink, or listening to a little music. It's just about shifting the energy is number 1, and getting yourself back to where you're a little more positive and a little more optimistic about doing the job. Sometimes that is best served with a call to a coach or an accountability partner or a productivity buddy. You know, having people in your life that you can call and say, hey, I'm stuck here. Can you got 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour to help me think this thing through? Can be really important. And the third little tip that I would give you right away is to break it down and just take the next step, whatever that is. As it turns out, my personal experience is, and I think this is the experience of a lot of other people, that anytime I have a big job, the hardest step is the first step. If you can just take a little tiny first step, you can get going on it. For example, if it's time to do the taxes, which is, we're getting close to April 15th, so maybe some of you are still like I am and you haven't quite done the taxes yet. Step number 1 is, okay, well, I'm going to get out the box of receipts. Okay, that wasn't so hard. Step number 2 is I'm going to take these receipts and put them out on the table and start to sort them a little bit so I can begin to work with them. Well, that's not hard. And then step number 3 is I'll take this pile over here and I'll add them up, and I'll take this pile over here and I'll add them up, and that isn't very hard either. As it turns out, that most very large projects are really a series of very, very small steps, and each one of those steps can be pretty easy to do. If you break it down to a fair amount of detail, you can create a whole series of very easy steps and get massive amount of things to do. If you have to, have an unpleasant conversation with somebody, for example, well, the first step is to think it through of things that you'd like to say. And then maybe the second step is picking up the phone. And maybe the third step is dialing the phone number. And maybe the fourth step is saying hello with a greeting of, an expression of goodwill. And then maybe the fifth step is that we do something. Anyway, you get the point. To get the point is the way that we accomplish great things is that we break them down into a series of very small tasks, each of which is easy to accomplish. And when we do that, we can do fantastic things. So thank you for that question. I shared that reminder with a lot of people this week who asked that very question. Man, my dream seems so big. How do I get started on it? And the answer is a journey of 10,000 miles starts with a single step. It's a really great adage. Next question, Stephanie.
When you say shifting the energy, what do you mean by that? Can you explain what you mean or what that energy is?
That's my particular terminology for changing my mood or attitude. So as it turns out, that there's lots of different ways to talk about the same experience. So one of the ways that you may talk about shifting energy is using the language of, getting yourself in a better mood. You might also say that I need to improve my attitude. You might say that, hey, I need to take a little break or a time out here. All of those things are saying that, where I am right now, I'm serious, I seem stuck, or I feel complacent, and I don't feel motivated to do anything. You may find yourself being serious or procrastinating. You might have a little victim, woe is me energy. You might have a little prisoner energy that says I'm trapped. And it's time to change your attitude, to change your perspective so that you can step back into a perspective that allows you to actually accomplish things. Now, in my language, I talk about that in terms of shifting energy because I'm very focused on, everything being energy, that I bring energy to every conversation, that other people bring energy into the room. When I was in high school and college, we talked about that, about having good vibes. There's a great song by the Beach Boys out there on good vibrations, which was the language that we used in college. But it's all saying the same thing. You have a mood, you have an attitude, you have a perspective, you have an emotional state, you have a mental state, and those emotional, mental states, those attitudes, perspectives, moods, the energy, the vibration that you bring into every situation impacts the responses of others and impacts your ability to be creative and to get the job done. And that's what I mean by shifting energy. I could use any one of those 5 or 6 different phrases there, and it means exactly the same thing. It means doing something to put yourself in a more productive, happier, action-oriented state that allows you to experience what you want to experience and accomplish what you want to experience in your life. But that's why I use the term shifting energy. Was that helpful? Hope so. Stephanie, next question, or expounding on that one.
Actually, there's comments here. He loves the answers. Yes, the answer was awesome. Got more questions if you're ready.
I'm going to take just a half a second. We're about halfway point in this seminar or this coaching call, so I just want to say a couple of things that I usually say before the questions and answer period on our normal office hours presentations. Then first one I want to talk about is my distinction. I really do focus on the whole person. As we talked about with the Awaken CEO system, it's not just about business growth, but it's also about professional growth and also about personal growth. It's about helping you succeed in your life in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. And I don't want a lot of your money. I want you to get the support that you want, you need, and you can use and you can afford to move forward in your business. For some people, that's a few $100s. For some people, the right thing to do is to have a much longer intensive engagement that can be many, many thousands of dollars. But one of the distinctions that I have, and one of my pledges to anybody that I talk to about supporting them in their business, is I'm going to do something that's right for you today and deliver significant value, whether that be for free, for $100, or for $10,000, whatever that happens to be. And that's what the Awaken CEO system is really about. You know, I'm awakened to the opportunity that I have to support others and the responsibility that I have to do that in an ethical way that's in great integrity. I just frustrates me no end, and I get a little bit passionate about this when I see people prey upon the trust and the ignorance of other people who are starting a business and they don't know any difference. So, you know, I oftentimes I fall in love with every single CEO or entrepreneur that I meet, and I really want to help them in a way that's very responsible, and want to help them in the way that I would like to be helped by other people. I'm a big fan of the Golden Rule. So our support services range a lot. You know, they range from teaching you and providing education and training systems so that you can go do it for yourself, and then several systems about doing it with you, whether it be providing advice or writing business plans or doing financial models. And sometimes we do it for you. We take on some projects where we write the sales scripts and we do the marketing copy and we do other things which you then have the opportunity to approve, but it really is a more do-it-for-you model instead of a do-it-with-you type model. So we have a lot of services. Our next office hours is going to be on April 6th. That's a week from today. We haven't decided what the topic is. And again, you can let us know what topics you might be interested in chatting about by going to paulsurvey.com. Oops, that says do your homework. Usually we have homework on these calls. This one, there's no homework quite yet. So with that brief message from our sponsor, I'll open it back up to questions and discussion for the rest of the group coaching session here today. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay. What's the best way to organize a new concept or a new project and follow it through to completion?
The best way, I'll go back to the 5-step process for the Awaken CEO growth process, which is vision, status, plan, resources, and then action. But when it comes to organizing, it really depends. So if you want to be a coach, there's not a lot of organization involved. You want to make sure that you get your own coach who is a successful coach that can guide you through the process of becoming a coach, and you fill out your team that way. That's a lot different than if you're going to bring a consumer product to market or a medical device to market. It really depends on the complexity and the nature of your business. I said this earlier in the call, but one of the distinctions that I have that I've never heard anybody else talk about is the business complexity profile, and how it's real obvious to me that some businesses are simple and some businesses are very, very complex. So first thing to do would be to figure out whether you're starting a simple business or a very complex business, and make sure that you've got people on your team who have experience relative to the business that you want to create, so that you can have their what I call domain experience or that specific business experience. And you also want process experience as well, people who are very experienced in helping others create and execute their growth plan. So sometimes those domain experts are called subject matter experts. So focus on organizing with those two things to start off with. Subject matter experts, people who have been there and done it, that can give you advice like nobody else can give you, and process experts, people who are expert in helping people in the process of starting and growing their business. So I'm a process expert. That's what I do as a business consultant. I'm expert in the process of creating financial models, the process of writing business plans, the process of doing strategic plans, the process of starting and growing a business. And I've got a fairly broad subject matter expertise because I've worked with 400 businesses. So I've worked with coaches and people with consumer products and people who wanted to start up data centers and bringing high-tech product to market. I have a fairly broad subject matter expertise in a lot of different areas, and there's some things that I don't know hardly anything about, and I tell you when I don't know anything about them. if I don't know anything about it, then you can't rely on me to be a subject matter expert. We have to get other people on the team who can be the subject matter experts. So I think those are two pretty darn good steps. First is understand the business that you intend to create. Is this a simple business or is it a complex business? And if so, what are the complexity factors? What is it do I really need to be good at so that I can understand my own skills and mindset relative to the complexity of the business I want to create, so that I can create a good plan to fill out my team and get the subject matter experts and the process experts that I need on my team to move boldly in the direction of the dream. Next question, Stephanie.
Okay. From your perspective, what was the most inspiring thought or concept shared by one of the speakers at CEO Space, and why was it so important?
Wow. We get to hear a lot of inspiring thoughts and concepts. I'll go back to Bob Proctor, who I think is right at the top of my list of my very favorite speakers. One of the things that Bob talks about is, I'll say two things that he's delivered that are really, really important for me. One of them is, I remember vividly when I was sitting in the audience listening to Bob Proctor for the first time 6 or 7 years ago, and he said something like the following: you think that you're going into business to start a business, but that's not really why you're going into business. You're going into business because your soul is seeking greater expression and expansion. And holy mackerel, boy, did that ever just turn the lights on for me. And in the same way that I try to turn it on for other people about this self-actualization process, and all of a sudden I begin to remember, the Psycho-Cybernetics book that Maslow wrote a long time ago, or that he didn't write that one, but another guy wrote that one, and then Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where he talks about the basic needs, the physical needs, and then the needs to belong, and then the need to self-actualize. And I realized that that's why I went into business, and that's why everybody goes into business. For some people, they think it's about the money, but what it really is their heart and their soul wanting to be everything that it can possibly be, wanting to create, wanting to be stronger, wanting to be more successful. It's really, grabbing life by the horns and going for it. And I really liked that. He said that again in the presentation that I heard him say the other day, and that's been transformative for me to hear him say that. The other thing that Bob Proctor said that I really like is he talks about how our subconscious mind begins to be formed. And the very important principle that when we are children, we don't have any filters. We don't have any way to judge whether or not the things that people are telling us are true or not. If we're sitting on our daddy's knee, and like I had the privilege of doing, and having my father look me in the eye and say, you're going to accomplish great things in your life, or you're a really smart kid, that goes right into the subconscious mind, and it becomes our truth and it can become our truth for years and years and years, until there's a preponderance of evidence that teaches us that perhaps that truth that we thought that we learned earlier, wasn't true. In other people's lives, unfortunately, there are kids that are told by their parents that they're never going to amount to anything, that they're worthless, that, they ought to just be a construction worker and don't even think about going to college. And it takes a preponderance of evidence over a long period of time, or just a decision that we make to overcome that subconscious conditioning. And of course, I'm reminded of all the study I've done in psychology and the formation of habits and essentially this human experience and how we come to be the people that we are, about how much of who we are is formed when we're 2 years old and 4 years old and 6 years old, and the importance of being a very good parent and sending very positive messages into the subconscious minds of our children. Bob talks about that in a very wonderful way, and it really helps people understand who they are and how they have become the person that they have become based upon those early childhood experiences, and especially the ones that were very passionate and had a lot of emotion attached to them. So that was great messages from Bob Proctor to me, and then from him through me to you in a lot of the work that I do. As it turns out, by the way, the truth of the universe is shouted from the rooftops and has been shouted from the rooftops for centuries by many, many people, by psychologists and therapists and counselors and coaches and spiritual teachers and inspirational speakers. We're all essentially saying the same messages in the best way that we know how, based upon our filter of our culture and our life experience and our language. And when you hear that truth enough, from me and from Bob and from Mary and from Tony and from, Byron Katie and from Eckhart Tolle, when you hear that message enough, it eventually becomes your truth too. And then you've got the opportunity to share that truth in your particular way with other people. And we all do our part to help this entire planet reach a new level of consciousness. Next question, Stephanie. I kind of got on a roll there, didn't I? Because I love talking about that stuff. Next question.
Well, let's try this one. It seems like I'm always reforming my business. How do I keep up?
I think we're always all reforming our business. I know in my business, we make transitions all the time, introducing new products, introducing new brands, new websites, new ways of reaching out to the marketplace. I talked to probably a dozen people here that were starting on their next version of their business or their next chapter of their life. That was really, really important for them to do. I think the best thing to do is to understand that your business is in a constant state of transformation, that technology is changing, the competitive environment is changing, the economic climate is changing, things are changing all around you all the time, and the way that you are doing business today will not be the same way that you do business a year from now or 2 years from now. That people will come and go, opportunities will come and go, partners will come and go, technology will change, just in that long list that I gave earlier of all of the different ways in which your business can change. People can change. The people that you work for, that work with you and for you, they're not going to be the same people a year from now, especially if you're taking on your responsibility as a leader and a mentor to help them change and grow. The people who work for you are going to be stronger. Some of them are going to have hard times, and they're not going to show up 3 months from today in the same way that they're showing up for today. So it's a constant state of change, and always focusing on your business, I think in terms of 90-day plans makes a lot of sense. Every 90 days, you step out and say, what has changed? What was I able to accomplish? What wasn't I able to accomplish? What has changed both inside the company and outside the company? And what new products and services do I need to be working on so that I can continue to transform my company over time? Because that's what the world wants. And oh, by the way, you keep hearing this, but the pace of change is constantly accelerating. So in 1950s or 1960s, when I first started working in business, things changed fairly slowly. They seemed like they were changing quick at the time because they were changing quicker than they did in the 40s and the 30s, but they were changing much slower compared to today. Today we have technology-fueled evolution of our businesses and of ourselves, and technology continues to change. Pretty soon, here's a prediction. I'll just give you a prediction. In 10 years, I think that most of our energy sources is going to come from solar cells and batteries. I think that we're going to reduce our dependence on foreign oil considerably because we'll have electric cars and electric homes that'll be both sharing energy with the grid and supplying energy to the grid. And I think it's going to transform a tremendous amount about our society in the same way that the internet and cell phones and smartphones have transformed our society, a tremendous amount just in the last 6 or 7 years or 8 years. Who knows what the technology is going to bring? I'm working with a client right now who's brainwave analysis software. The promise of the future is that 10 or 15 years, we won't even have to pick up the phone. We'll just think a thought. And I'll think of a thought like, Mom, I love you, and she'll pick it up immediately because the systems will get my brain waves and realize I thought that thought and get the message to her in some way. So it's all pretty darned exciting. Number one, I guess, answer to that question is the way that we transform our business is that we think and we know in our heart and soul that we have to constantly be transforming our business. Next question.
Given this aviation accident with Germanwings and Copilot, how can a business address this issue of employees having hidden mental illnesses?
I wish that I had a good answer to that. I'll just share a little perspective, but I don't know that I have an answer to that. So generally, my belief is that 1 out of 100 people is pretty crazy. Sometimes I think it's amazing, given the fragility of the human mind, that more people don't go crazy. Because we humans, we get thoughts in our head when we're young, stuff happens to us along the way, and people can develop any number of mental disorders or ways in which their particular brain just isn't working right. They can gain weight to the point that they weigh 600 or 700 pounds. They can become a hoarder. They can become addicted to drugs and alcohol and other crazy behaviors. They can dance with snakes. They can walk around San Francisco buck naked. I mean, there's people. It's really very humbling to me to look around at what I consider to be a fairly fragile human psyche out there and wonder why more people aren't certifiably insane. So general rule of thumb, again, that mine is about 1 out of 100 people is pretty crazy. And by the way, another 1 or 2 of those people is crazy part of the time. And then you find people that will go into a state of darkness for whatever reason. Something triggers them in, a series of events pile up on them, and they get way down in the shadows, what I call the pit of the darkness. And they get into their self-destructive energy, they get into their prisoner energy, their victim energy, and they feel like, man, I am where I am and I'm stuck and I'm never going to see the light again, and I'm just not only going to take myself out, but I'm going to take other people out too. I don't know that we as a planet, as a species, will ever be able to get over that. But what I do know is that we've got the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of the people with whom we come into contact. We have, by the nature of our vibration, of our energy, by our mood, our attitude, by the smiles on our faces, by the genuine compassion that we share for our fellow human beings, we've got an opportunity to add a little light into the darkness there with every second of every day, with every interaction that we have. And our part, as responsible human beings, is to share our love and our light and our wisdom and our joy with the world as much and as often as we possibly can, so that maybe we can prevent somebody from slipping too far down into the darkness. Maybe we can reach out to the people in our network, and when we see somebody that's starting to say things like, I'm having really doubts about this, or I don't think I'm ever going to recover from this, or, I'm just so angry I could really hurt somebody, that we really pay attention to that, and we realize that, hey, people do slip into the darkness, and sometimes when they slip into the darkness, they crash planes, they pick up guns and shoot people. They do god-awful things to their fellow human beings, and just being alert to that and realizing the power that we have to, to help and to recognize and to maybe forestall some nasty thing like that. That's part of the whole human experience. It's that people sometimes are crazy and people sometimes go crazy, and that we have the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of other people, and that's what I try to do every day. That's what we're doing with the Awakened CEO system, is making a difference in the lives of people every single day. And my primary message to you and anybody that's listening to this live or otherwise is that you've got the opportunity to do the same thing. The greatness that I see within Bob Proctor, Mary Morrissey, Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, and a lot of the other people that I have a great deal of affection for and respect for, that same energy is the energy within me and is the same energy within you too. And if you practice every day on being on reminding yourself about what you are when you are at your best, the person that you are and the capability you have to do great things and inspire other people and live a fantastic life with great relationships, then you're doing your part. And that greatness that's within me and the greatness within you can inspire other people to find the greatness within themselves and remember it, embrace it, and live it every day. I think I'm going to end there. We're at about an hour or so, and that was a pretty good way to end today's conversation. If you have any questions at all, comments at all, please don't hesitate to reach out, to send me an email, give me a phone call, set an appointment to chat. I'd love to do anything and everything I can to support you in your journey in business and your journey through life. With that, we'll call our coaching session for an end for the day. This is Paul Hoyt, wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.